Exercise Intellect. That's my brand. So what is it about? So Exercise Intellect is really and truly about training smartly and living your life in a way that helps you live a fuller, happier, and I won't say longer, because I mean, hey, nobody could promise how long we're living, but maybe a little bit more like fulfilled and energetic. Like let's try that. So this channel is going to be about my training for a half marathon. It's going to be about how my training and my health conditions play a role into intermixing, and really anything kind of sports related, maybe. Like, we'll see where that goes, right? But the main gist is training and who I am, how I train, and what I'm doing to kind of get there, right? So let's dive into it. I am Kati Droganov. I am a certified personal trainer with a bachelor's in exercise science. I've been in the training sphere probably since I was like 17. Some things back then were a little questionable, but hey, we live and we learn, right? Next, bachelor's of science in nursing. I am a certified or registered nurse, so I am licensed, and I will actually start my first job in August, so that's cool. Now, I am also a wife, a mother, a dog owner, a sister, a daughter, and a friend. All of these things play a factor into who I am, how I train, and how I kind of communicate and work through life, right? Which is pretty much what we all do. We all are impacted by everything around us, trying to just move forward. So I'm going to also discuss a little bit about my background and where this all kind of came about, because I said I was like 17 when I kind of entered the coaching realm. And that is true, because around 17, I was working with the head coach of my high school track team, and just really kind of learning her perspective on training, the ins and outs, and helping other throwers, because I did throw shot put and discus at the time, to perform better, to work on technique. And I carried that out through my college career. And then I left college because I had a knee injury and just didn't really see myself continuing in that environment. Moved on to the Navy and learned things, learned about life, learned more about fitness and how that pertains to the military. And around like maybe a year and a half, 2 years before I got out of the Navy, I decided that I needed to go back to school to finish my first degree. And I went to the University of North Carolina, Wilmington online, got my bachelor's in exercise science, was also certified before that was completed as a personal trainer, worked in gyms, did a little time with strength and conditioning in a collegiate realm, also learned the ins and outs of gym management in a outside gym and also a government-owned gym, so a Navy gym. Then at that time we moved because I am married to a wonderful man who is active duty, so we get to move around the country, so that's always fun. And we went through this kind of phase of life where I was like, okay, what do I want to do? I don't think I want to be a physical therapist. I don't want to be a strength and conditioning coach in the collegiate realm, because that's just not conducive to the lifestyle that I kind of want to live. So I took some time, tried to mull it over, and opened my own business as a personal trainer. Did that for about a year and a half or so. Found out I was pregnant and realized that I do have a passion for fitness, but the way in which I conducted my business wasn't the most beneficial to earning money and taking care of a family, or contributing to take care of a family, because it is my husband and myself. So I wasn't the only one, but we really had to, or I had to kind of think about what I wanted out of life and what I wanted for this future child of mine at the time. So I decided, hey, let's go into nursing, because I do love health and fitness. This is part of the health and fitness realm, right? Nursing is medicine, and being in the hospital or being outside of the hospital, your health is very dependent, and your fitness is, they work together, right, guys? So at that point, I was like, okay, we'll go into nursing. And it also helps because my husband is active duty, like I said, so that's an easy thing to kind of move around and find a job. So it was really thinking long term for my family and myself. So went through the nursing program, just graduated this May, so that's so dope. And then about 3 days later, or 2 days after I graduated, I took the NCLEX. 2 days after that, found out that I earned my license. So that was really awesome. In the meantime, I've been helping my best friend in offering kind of my skills as a personal trainer to aid her business as a physical therapist. And she talked me into jumping on for a half marathon. So she asked me to, hey, like for our 30th, because we turned 30 this year, let's go run a half. And I was like, well, yeah, sure. Like, I'm down. Peer pressure, easy for me, right? Especially with her. Like, if she's like, hey, Katie, let's go do this, I'm like, sounds great, let's do it. So we decided we're going to run a half marathon for our 30th. And in the meantime, I was like, you know what, I really should probably run a half before then, just to kind of get my sea legs, if you will, because this will be my second half marathon. My first was pretty ugly, and we'll get into that later. But that was all happening, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because when I was in nursing school, probably about a month into nursing school, and my daughter was about 7 months at this time, maybe 6 months, I found out that I had Hashimoto's, or I had been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is hypothyroidism. And basically my thyroid, which is this cute little butterfly organ in your throat, decided, hey, I'm not going to work anymore. And I don't want to get too into the weeds of this right now, but your thyroid controls your metabolism. And your metabolism is more than how much you weigh or how fast you digest food. It has a lot to do with how every organ is functioning, how fast they'll function, like your heart rate, your liver, your kidneys, and kind of all of these different parts. And it also regulates your temperature. So around the time I was being diagnosed, before we did the blood work, I went to my provider and I was like, yo, I feel like I can't get over this sickness. Like, my kid got sick like 4 weeks ago. I still feel sick. I'm tired. I'm cold all the time. Like, my hair is falling out. And I told him, I asked him, let's run a vitamin D, let's do B12, let's look at all these different vitamins to see if I'm deficient in anything, right? And he was like, Katie, I'm also going to add on a thyroid panel, because I really want to see if you have a thyroid issue, because everything you're saying kind of aligns. And I was like, all right, cool, dude, like, let's do it. Comes back a couple days later, gives me a call, and he's like, yeah, your thyroid stopped working, bud. And I was like, oh, dang. So lucky enough, like, I was in nursing school, so I was able to already be learning about these things and kind of have a better understanding and not be so scared as to what's happening. But it was great to get a diagnosis, because I didn't feel like I was like crazy, in a sense of like, something is wrong, but I can't put my finger on what's wrong. And so I was really happy that we did get a diagnosis. The only issue is, like, over this past year, it's been very difficult, because I was seeing an active duty provider and he PCS'd. So our close relationship was just ended abruptly. And that was really tough, because he was somebody I trusted and I looked to for advice, and he was just there. He was a really great provider. And then I felt like I just had a string of bad luck, because it's so difficult to get a medical appointment. And they were like, hey, you have to wait 3 months. So I asked, like, I sent an online message and be like, hey, can we check my thyroid to see where it is? And I would actually have to argue with some of the medical providers, because they'd be like, oh, well, it's not within our recommendations to test you yet. And I was like, guys, I don't feel good. Like, you treat the patient, not the numbers or whatever your random medical recommendations are. I'm like, you treat the patient, so look at the patient. And I was getting really flustered, and to be quite honest, I was the one who was pushing my medication changes. And I was like, I think we need to go up. And all this time, like, I did get to see a nurse practitioner that was an endocrinologist. Honestly, not helpful at all. Literally, she was just like, cool, like, you have hypothyroidism. I guess we'll bump up your meds and see what happens. And I was like, it was literally like a 5-minute conversation, y'all. And it was just, I was not happy. I left and I was extremely angry. I felt like I hadn't been heard. So all that being said, a couple months ago, still feeling like I've not been heard, still trying to manipulate my medication on my own, which I do not recommend. No one should ever recommend that, right? Never, ever, 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 ever change your own medication, because you're not the doctor. You can't see everything. You're not that provider who can see what's going on, has the education to understand what's going on. And I messed up, and I doubled my medication overnight, because my TSH levels kept rising, because since providers wouldn't schedule me for blood draw, I went out and paid for my own blood draws. And I was like, I feel alone. I feel like I have to do this by myself. And I did, and I made the wrong decision. And I met with a new endocrinologist who I think this is a good one. I'm not going to speak too happily about it, but I think this is a good person to be with. And now it's about tapering me off this dose that I'm on, because I essentially sent myself into hyperthyroidism, and that was no bueno. Obviously not a smart choice. Don't do. And now we're kind of working with that at the same time I am training for a half marathon. So it's a bit tricky, but all that being said, is like, I am a very real person with issues that I wouldn't say they just happened to me, because like genetically, I think 3 out of 4 of my grandparents had hypothyroidism. One of my parents has it. And so really genetically, the cards were stacked, but you know, I'm still on this journey working with nutrition and learning more about that to better understand what I am putting in my body and how it affects everything else. So we'll see how that goes. All that being said though, I am learning, I'm growing, I am trying to better understand my body and learn more about training in this condition, but also being able to still help a wide variety of people with understanding exercise and the best way to kind of go about it for yourself. So the goal is, again, for this channel, I'm going to try to discuss things in a kind of broad sweeping way. No, I'm not giving any recommendations. I just want to share information to maybe help you make better decisions. But ultimately, I just want to be able to share this information and you digest it and use it however you see fit. But yeah, that's who I am. I'm a wife, a mother, a person with hypothyroidism, a friend, a business owner, and soon to be working nurse. So this was a short little gist of who I am, and we'll get into training videos very soon.